So, this conversation is all about storytelling, leadership, and what it really takes to succeed. Today's guest is editor chief of Success magazine. She's founder of RedLily, author of My Heart and Myself, and I've been looking forward to this conversation for weeks. With more than 30 years of experience leading award winning creative teams from content to editorial, she's a sought after speaker. She's a guest lecturer. She's an expert panelist. She's someone that I saw and thought this conversation needs to happen. Today, I'm lucky enough to have her grace our show and to share her wisdom with you. So please welcome Kerrie Lee Brown to the show today.
Hi, Tim. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very honored to be on your show.
I'm very honored to have you, and thank you for doing this, for sharing your wisdom, and for coming on and for owning your story because it is just phenomenal, and there's so many lessons to unpack.
Absolutely. No, I'm really excited because I know that your audience is the same audience that I deal with all the time on a personal and a professional level. So I'm sure we're going to dive into it. But storytelling is a part of my life. It always has been ever since I was a child. It's in my DNA. My dad is from Dublin and he's Irish, and storytellers are, from Ireland. So I definitely have it in my blood, and I've been able to make a really great career out of it as well.
They certainly do. Ireland, what an amazing place, and yeah, the luck of the Irish. You certainly have, and I believe that. What I wanted to start with is, I think so many leaders they chase visibility, and they miss this piece around authenticity, an authentic narrative. So, what's the biggest mistake that leaders make when they're trying to be influential online and in their narrative? Like, what are they doing wrong?
In my role at Success Magazine, obviously, I amplify voices of, success stories of business owners, entrepreneurs, philanthropists, marketers, creatives, influencers. And over my whole career, really, I've been doing that at every publication I've ever worked at or launched or overhauled. And I think to answer your question, I think visibility is so important for the person who is in business and who has a mission, who has something like a vision, really, that they want to get across. And, there's a lot of people that don't, and I speak about this a lot too at a lot of the talks I do, but there's a lot of people out there who are one, don't have the confidence to share their story, which will really ultimately catapult their, visibility in the world, in content creation, but also online and social, and then also in the media. But there's a lot of people who don't have the confidence to do it. They figure they don't, have a worthy enough story to share. Some people also feel that, why would my story, my personal story, really impact my business? And yet there really is a connective tissue there, which I like to talk about a lot. So yeah, I think that, storytelling definitely is very pertinent to the entrepreneur or anyone who has a real, valid message. And I like to speak about that a lot because it's very important. So.
I concur, and I think you've absolutely highlighted the biggest part there. It's that if you're holding back your authenticity, your authentic story, then that's the actual piece that's going to move the needle. That's the piece that's going to connect with others. So the biggest mistake then would then be not doing it, being too caught up in your own mindset.
Yeah, I think a lot of people they do get caught up in their own kind of mindset that, and I'll give you an example. So when we were growing up, right, there was always, your professional life and your personal life. You went through schooling, you kind of charted your path to be whether it be the corporate world or the entrepreneurial world, it doesn't matter, but you charted this path. And a lot of people always kept their personal stories or their personal lives very separate to their work. And I did too. I did too. Like you did, you kind of kept them very separate. Nowadays, especially with the onset of how publishing has gone, how media has gone, how social media has gone, everybody's lives are on display. And I think that, yeah, if you hold back on sharing glimpses of you and how authentic you are and your genuine story, then you are really missing the mark in really getting ahead in where you want to go. So whether that's in business, whether that's in a philanthropy charge, whether that's even in just your social circles or your networking circles, if you hold back your authenticity and who you truly are at the core, then the people out there aren't really getting to know you. And because there's so much competition out there nowadays, especially with social media, everyone's a content creator, right? And these days, everybody's a designer. Everybody, everybody can, launch a book or a podcast. Now you really have to stand out. So I talk a
Mm.
lot about that when I'm on the stage and even in all of my podcasts about how you can stand out no matter what your aspiration is or what you're trying to get across. It doesn't matter if you run a Fortune 500 company or if you are, a team player in a corporate role or if you're a solopreneur, you still have a message to share or something to sell or something to give back. And sharing that story is really the way to go with that because that's going to make you stand out.
I love that, and that's the differentiated piece, right? It's the being able to share your journey, not always just the good points, because I think when we look on LinkedIn, it's just a highlight reel. When we look on Instagram, it's so curated. And if you
Yes.
literally just shared your journey and like how you're feeling on the day and what you've got to do to be that CEO or be that leader or come up to that meeting and be inspiring and have gravitas and all of
Yeah.
the parts. Yes. Yes, Kerrie, I love this.
Well, it's interesting because I mean, I've interviewed a lot of people in my career, 30 years in the media industry. I've, contributed to and curated over 150 magazines worldwide. I've shared hundreds of thousands of success stories in all of the publications I've run, not just at Success, but all throughout my career. And one of the common threads I find in talking to all of these really, really impressive people, it doesn't matter how much money you make, it's really about the impression that you leave. And that is the big message that I want to get across because again, I've interviewed everyone from Tony Robbins to Damon John to Eva Longoria, actress to many, many, many people. And people will look at them very aspirationally, like I want to be like them, or how did they get there? What my biggest thing is that nowadays you can Google anyone, right? You can throw their name into ChatGPT or any of these AI platforms. You can find out all you want to about them on the surface. So that's what you said, on the surface. We can find that out. But what I like to do in all of the publications I've ever run, and even in my own kind of storytelling platforms, I like to share the real story behind the success and how they got there, the stories that people don't know, the struggles that they've had, the stones they've had to overturn, and those often aren't out there for public consumption. And that's why I think not only is storytelling, personal, especially in the lives of a business entrepreneur, but also in the lives of these celebrities and thought leaders that I speak to. I've spoken to many, many, and many of them have also said, I've never been asked those questions before. That's digging really deep, but I can see why, because it's really going to give that fodder to somebody who maybe is struggling in their own world or in their own life or just gone through a transition, a divorce, or whatever, just lost all their money in bankruptcy. They want to know how these celebrities and thought leaders have also gone through those specific things. And often I find that business leaders and people in the limelight don't often share that stuff because they don't want to feel or look like they have had obstacles or failures. I'm very enamored by those who are very honest about that. I'm very honest about that in my own life as well. And those are the stories that will inspire people to really go after their own dreams and really give them that kind of oomph to know that they can also do it themselves as well.
That's super cool. And I think this is, Kerrie, you're already dropping so much value because someone could chuck they could chuck that into ChatGPT and they could say what made Tony Robbins successful or Eva Longoria successful. And like you said, it's your questioning style, it's your curiosity, your persistence there that's going to uncover it. And so you're spotting trends because you've had that vast experience across hundreds and hundreds of interviews that you're able to pull out that thread. Now, I loved what you said. It's not about the money you make, it's the impression you leave. Incredible. Incredible. I think people need to just listen to that. If you're struggling right now to express your story, Kerrie's just given you the blueprint, given you the permission. Take ownership. Let's go forward and move on to something that I know was a huge turning point in your life. So, this to the listeners might sound shocking, but your heart attack at 39, life altering. People
Yeah,
still
absolutely.
ignore their bodies, right? Yeah, it's like it's life altering.
Mhm. Yeah, I had a heart attack at age 39, you're right. I'm 52 years old now. So I like to, obviously, I've survived and thrived with a lot of work, a lot of personal deep work. Not only did I have physical heart surgery to rectify my problem after my heart attack, and I found out at that time also that I had a heart defect since birth, which I never knew until my late 30s. And it was really impacting my health overall. And I do speak a lot now, and I wrote my book about heart health and about really, taking that time for us all to slow down, to make sure that we listen to our bodies, not only our heart, but all of our bodies, to never take, no or no, you're crazy from a doctor and go get a second opinion type of thing. I learned a lot through that, and it's also catapulted my not only my personal kind of evolution in regards to my heart health and looking after my health, but it's also impressed upon me how we as, entrepreneurs, as, mothers and fathers, no matter what you really do in your life, we really have to think about our own health because if we're not here, and if we're not here, if we don't have a good
Mm,
health or if we aren't here, we can't be productive. We can't be the people that we want to be for our families, for our loved ones, and for even our colleagues. So I think that that's really important to mention, but it was a big turning point in my life. I was at the height of my media career in Toronto. I was the editor in chief of a big magazine there at the time. Funny enough, a parenting magazine. I was a parent of young, my boys were young then. And it was all go, go, go. And I used to commute into the city 2 hours each way every day. So it was a 4 hour commute. I was on the train, on the subway, and all the stuff living in the kind of high paced world of media and, the work life out there. And I lived in the outskirts of the Toronto and I loved what I did. But what I was doing was I was choosing my work over my own health. And when I say health, not only physical health, but also my mental health, and also my emotional health. I was choosing my career over that. And I wasn't realizing how much it was really impacting me, by staying late and then still having to get back home and then not being able to see the kids before bed. I was really putting my career before myself. And so that turning point, like you mentioned, was really important because it made me stress how important it is to be a little selfish and to think about my own self-care because it was impacting not only myself, but also my family, my boys, and not being there for them when they needed me. So my heart attack was a huge wake-up call, the wake-up call that I really truly needed, I think, to change my trajectory, to change my life, and to also look at my life from a different perspective. And that's what I love to talk about now, and I write about it a lot because I think those words to people is so like on people who have turning points in their lives that they don't realize why they happen. I am a huge believer that there's everything happens for a reason, and in my
mm.
case, it was my heart attack that changed my course really of my journey.
Absolutely. That's absolutely massive. But this is so important. This is so important because how would you jump off the train if you're almost addicted to the train, addicted to the rat race, addicted to the success in your career? Like, what would you say to someone when their body is giving them all the signs? Like the
Mm,
symptoms are there, not necessarily from a heart attack, but it's
yeah.
certainly there from a stress point of view or a survival mode point of view. How does
Mm.
someone, if they feel obligated as well, if there's like the work is coming in and they've got to keep going, like they just feel like I can't jump off this train. I want to not be doing all this stuff. What's your advice?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I had to learn the hard way. I really did. I mean, a lot of the signs and symptoms for me, and again, this is my heart related, but I also was having exhaustion. I was burned out. I had a lot of stress triggers on the day to day, but I was just chalking it up to, oh, well, I'm just busy. I'm in an editor-in-chief executive role in media. This is kind of part and parcel of what my career has become.
Mm,
I just accepted it. So my advice to people out there is listen to your body. If anything is off in any way that seems unusual, I would definitely get to the doctors. I mean, I'm certainly no, physician or anything, but I do know from experience that you can't put those things off. I would also listen to like your inner, your inner kind of voice that is saying, look, I am exhausted. I am mentally, physically exhausted, and I really need to take a minute. It's easier said than done for sure. But I definitely learned the hard way. And, learn to say no. Say no to people, say no to things and places and people, because that is really key. It's extremely hard. I'm a people pleaser myself, actually. So I know that that's one of the hardest things I can do is say no to people, but I've had to learn to. And I think if it doesn't, like if you feel like you have to serve other people more than you're serving yourself, then you're doing yourself a disjustice. And I think that's the whole key. So learn to say no as well. You're going to be better off to people if you are more rested, if you are at more peace with yourself, if you have a better positive mindset, if you're more, again, at peace with your whole existence. And that goes for your personal and your professional life. So learning to say no is one thing too, and stop being a people pleaser. Again, easier said than done. The rat race is true, and I've been there and I've lived it my whole life. But at the end of the day, who does it really serve, right? Usually it serves other people. You're not really serving yourself. And in the long term, you want to serve yourself. You have to live for yourself. You have to live for your loved ones. And, you might have an amazing job in your 20s that you're thriving with and, really doing successfully and making a lot of money or climbing the corporate ladder. But are you going to still be at that job when you're 60? Probably not. So I would think about yourself. And I know they say that, being, self-care is selfish, but I agree that I think it's essential. So I would say that that is important. And, take the keys from your own body. And if other people are also telling you that that you're exhausted or you should take a break and you're like, no, 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 I can't. I have this deadline or I have this board meeting or whatever. If other people are also noticing it about you, then they're really saying what they see. So listen to your body, listen to yourself, but also listen to others around you as well.
I love this, learning to say no.
Yeah.
Like we can be such yes people. We can be
Yeah.
such yes people, and we get into that habit, and then it becomes very, very difficult to unwind. So, what's the one thing that you thought about success, like the one component that you believed was gospel, and then now you know not to be true, that you've completely reversed?
That's a good question. I really love it because I've been doing a lot of reflection on my life in the last several years. I just went through a divorce last year. I've been shedding a lot of kind of negative energies, if you will, or certain energies that I don't want in my life anymore. Maybe it's because I'm at that second chapter of my life and my age. Maybe it's through experience. I have two boys who are 16 and 21 now. But I do like to say that, there are things that if I look back on my life, I wish I hadn't have been so eager to climb the corporate ladder. I think I would have kind of stopped to smell the roses, if you will, a little bit more because I know I was successful in my trajectory and where I went after university. But I think that if I could just kind of like enjoy that time a little bit more instead of trying to get there very fast. Because I'll tell you what, when you make it there and you're at the top of your career or your profession, or you've made all the money that you kind of feel like you've reached the top, there really is nowhere else to go other than down or stay the same. So if you kind of, reach that pinnacle too early, then it's kind of like, now what? And that's where people, especially high level entrepreneurs and thought leaders, get stuck because then they're like, well, I'm already here. Now what do I want? And then they get depressed or they get lonely or they get all these different things that could happen because they've already reached that pinnacle. If you space it out and say, you know what, I just want to be really successful by the time I'm 60, instead of going for it all by the time you're 30. There's so many different ways you could look at it. So I think in my case, I would probably just stop and kind of enjoy every step along the way. I look back now and I'm very proud of myself for all my accomplishments and all the people I've met along the way. But I definitely would have enjoyed more time with my mentors along the way. I would have
Mm.
written more books before I wrote my first book, which was based on a heart attack I had at age 39. Like, why didn't I
Mm.
write more books before that? So I think there's a few things along the way that I probably would have changed, but I don't regret anything. I just think that maybe I would have taken a little bit of a different path.
Okay, so stop to smell the roses and at the same
Yeah.
time space it out. But what I'm gonna probe deeper on this. Would you or do you think if you applied that, you would be where you are today as editor in chief of Success Magazine? Do you think that's the fear I would have? Is like, okay, well, if I don't do all of these things, if I don't do the hustle, am I going to and am I going to get to the pinnacle? Because I would say you're on the mountaintop. You get to
Yeah.
interview all these people. You get to speak on all these things. You get to write on all your books. You get to make like that's there. Would you still get there? Because I feel like that's the dissonance between the
Mhm.
need to do it
Well,
all now, to get there, to rush, to make it all happen, to have the heart attack, and then be like, okay, Kerry was right.
yeah. And I agree with you. I think that there obviously I'm where I am because certain things have happened and I did, I'm a hustler and I'm a type that I've always been very driven since I was
Yeah.
a child. So to answer your question, I think I would still be where I am. What I meant by stopping to smell the roses is not necessarily, doing all the jobs I did or getting the promotions and all that I worked so hard for. For me, it was more maybe putting my stress aside along the way and enjoying the time that I had in different roles. Me getting to success was a path that obviously I made my way to. I don't
Mm.
think that would have changed. But what I would have changed is my mindset along the way of how I handled stress, how I handled, emotional situations, pressures on myself. I've always put a lot of pressure on myself ever since I was a child. So maybe some of those things along the way. My career path would probably remain the same because I would have ended up here. But I think the way I've handled it, maybe I'm at more peace now, knowing that, all that additional stress and adrenaline and all that worry that you kind of have over the years about money, about, should I take this job? Should I change things? Should I do it's reality, but I think now that I look back and I have some wisdom around my experience, I would say, you know what? Probably would have just taken a breath or two and maybe meditated or thought about it for a day or so instead of like being worked up. And I think those are the changes I would have made along the way, if I could, had more peace, brought more peace into my life earlier than after certain things have happened in my life to make me do that. And that's one thing I would have told my younger self. If somebody asked me, what would you tell your younger self, which people say all the time, I would definitely say, like, just kind of make sure that you have energetic peace within you along the way so that you can live with yourself and you can get to a really happy place down the road without regretting maybe your anxiousness or your adrenaline bursts when they weren't necessary because you're going to end up where you're going to end up. And I think that's just the way the world works. Whether you believe in God or not, and I do, but that's just where you're meant to go. And also to answer that question, if I had have taken even different directions along the way and didn't end up at success, I like to think that I would have been somewhere else successful. I just think that I am at the pinnacle of my career in media, but I may have ended up somewhere else. May have ended up writing more books. I don't know. But either way, I think that your path is kind of drawn out for you in the beginning. And I think that that's kind of what I like to think about. And just to be positive along the way too, because there's always going to be another opportunity. No matter how many doors are closed, there's always going to be one that opens. So,
I love this, Kerry. I love that you spent the time to clarify that because this is the piece I, that you have so expertly put, so powerfully put, so crystal clearly put. It's the process and how you deal with the things along the way. Like the things along the way are potentially going to be the same. And I too believe in God, and I believe that you're given
mhm.
these gifts and these talents, and it's your duty to go forward and take them as far as you can take them. But it's the way that you're doing it. I love it. I love it. Thank you,
Yeah, it's
Kerry.
the human experience, right? Like I've also interviewed a lot of successful people who are older and who are retired or who sold, multi-million billion dollar businesses or who, just decided to move on from different aspirations. And that's what they say to me. A lot of them really say the same thing is that if they had have known that along the way you're going to, come across obstacles, don't stress it with about them at the time because in the grand scheme of things, everybody goes through different obstacles and trials and tribulations. Just kind of take a breath and get through them. I think that's the biggest thing. So I'm not the only one who thinks that. There's a lot of people that do, and I think that's one of the biggest things I tell younger people now coming out of school or out of university, even like teenagers, don't stress over it because there's always going to be something else coming down the road.
Amazing. Amazing. So if we take a sort of a hard pivot now into your role as editor-in-chief at Success Magazine, how do you
Yeah.
balance, like we know that the world's changed, attention matters. How do you balance putting meaningful content out there that's the absolute narrative and gonna help people with getting clicks and the things that matter, selling ads, doing whatever you've got to do to bring the money in?
Yeah, and it's a great question because, of course, everything's changed with social media, with everyone's doing digital marketing, everyone's doing podcasts, everyone's on stages, and all these different things. And there's a lot more competition. I mean, well, there's always been competition, I guess. It's just changed. And
Mhm.
it's fast paced and it's moving. And AI is really infiltrating into publishing and media and people's lives. And, how do I balance that or how do we do that as a team? Well, we definitely work very collaboratively. We've been integrating AI now for the last, gosh, year or so, kind of heavily on the back end with our processes and efficient systems in the back end. And we have a lot of support there.
Mm.
But how do we do that where there's a balance? I like to say that I'm a classically trained journalist, and I'm a heartfelt leader. So I look at all of the different things that are moving so fast in life. And again, I take a step back and think, okay, but how does this reflect the brand? So Success Magazine is a 128-year-old brand, and a lot of people don't know that the magazine has literally been out for 128 years. It was the first self-help and professional development magazine documented. So this goes way back to the 1800s, and most people don't realize that. So when I look at that legacy and where I've taken it the last 3.5 years being at the magazine, I like to think that the way we embrace the hecticness is by really just honing in on our brand and knowing that the content we bring to the people, to our readers, to our consumers, to our listeners, to our viewers, it really just has to stay on brand about what we do. Our audience will be the same. It's for entrepreneurs, it's for young entrepreneurs now, and we really just have to kind of focus on that. I like to still bring in the human side of storytelling as well. I mean, there's AI out there now doing a lot of different things on the publishing side, but we still have that human connection and touch. I think that makes a big difference of standing out in the world as well. But I also think again, it comes down to teamwork and it comes down to who you have on the inside of your business and how you can all work together to keep that momentum going. And then just again, working at a publication that has such a legacy, it doesn't help either for keeping that staying power, if you will. But clicks and likes and shares are all very important, and we all have our role to play on social media. Even as individuals, I do it myself on my own social media, and that's what keeps the momentum. But one other thing I do want to add, though, Tim, is that one of the other things I'm really a big advocate of is the networking side. So
Mm.
again, that human experience. So we have a physical publication that's obviously in the newsstands here in the U.S., and we have a digital publication as well that complements the physical. But I think it's also when I get out and I'm speaking out there on stages and I'm meeting people at events and I'm doing podcasts like this, and you're able to share these with your audiences. It's that human connection too, even if it's virtual like this, but we're still talking to each other. I think that that's what gives us the staying power as well. I know a lot of competitors in our industry, anyway, in the publishing, in our kind of magazine world, have gone completely AI. And yes, you can do it. 100% you can do it. But that human connection is really what still ties us to the brand. And that's what I try to do in everything that I do for success and everything that I do for any publication I've ever been at. And being that ambassador for the magazine as well is really important, and having that consistency and, of course, authenticity, which I know you're a very big advocate for as well. So that's what makes a difference.
Oh, absolutely. So how are you dealing with like misinformation, AI generated content, all of like it's changed, as you said, like how are you thinking about how you synthesize through that and what's important?
Yeah. Well, at the magazine, we still have human writers. I mean, we have writers and editors. We have freelancers. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of magazines that don't. I'm very proud of that. I do know that we are, using AI for different systems and processes on the back end. There's certainly different softwares in there that you can aid you in helping with fact checking and those kind of things. But I do know that there has to be a human element to do the quality control on that.
Mm.
So, there is a lot of misinformation out there. We still do the very traditional fact checking, and I'm very proud of that. And we have a very solid team that we depend on, small but mighty. And I'm very proud of our team. But yeah, there's a lot of misinformation out there on the internet, and even on certain podcasts and everywhere else. But I think you have to, from our perspective, is I'm a journalist by trade. Like I literally have a journalism degree. I did my master's in it, and I really stick to those kind of ethical ways of producing, credible content. And when you have a brand that you have to uphold, it's, obviously the reputation of the legacy of success, but then also my own reputation as a journalist as well. I think it's very important to stand by what you say and, make sure that whatever content is created has to be double checked and triple checked by humans. And I think that's what kind of keeps us at the forefront of our industry anyway. Because I know a lot of publications out there are just AI generated with no human review at all. And
Mm.
yes, they may do well and maybe people pick them up, but I guess it all comes down to the integrity. And I'm a big
Yeah.
proponent of integrity in the content. And that's what also people are attracted to reading success about is our integrity and our forthrightness of the fact that we really do stand by our content because we don't ever want to put out, information that's not correct. And that's what I stand for, and why I will always
Mm.
stand by that as a journalist and as an editor, in my career and as a person as well. So that's kind of where I stand on that. But I mean, we're just infiltrated with content right out there. And
Mm.
I think that you have to pick your kind of your pleasures and where you like to go for content. You know what medias are not as truthful, if you will, or as integrity filled as others. And I like to think that I've brought a little bit of a unique, enhanced kind of innovative feel to success as part of the legacy over the years. But then I also know that, it's all about who you trust and in the marketplace and who you feel comfortable with. So that's kind of my 2 cents on that. But it's a hard world out there with the competition for sure.
I'm lit up by what you said. Like that word integrity, I can feel it. I can feel it just talking to you, but I can also feel it through the magazine. I can feel it through you being the bastion of integrity and holding the line when it would be so easy to capitulate. It's so easy to incorporate the quick hacks and the like to not do the work. But you're holding the line. I can feel it.
I'm
Integrity is
holding
what you
on.
do.
I really
Yeah.
am. I'm holding on. And I think that, it's just one of those things. Like I've been in, like I said, in media for 30 years. And I mean, way back before there were websites, social media, all the stuff. And I had to, learn all those things and change my way of operating as a journalist over the years and kind of accept things and change things and stay relevant. And all publications have to stay relevant in some way. But there are, certain outlets and certain publications that do take the easy road. And I kind of feel like, that's fine for certain people and certain publications. But I feel truthfully in my heart that where my
Mm.
heart is staying the integrity side. It just means a lot to me as a person. That's why, my books will always be written by me. And even though you can certainly write them with AI, me personally, I feel like it's just there's more. Maybe more love and affection in them. And it means more to me when you have words on a page that are written by a person. But that's just me. That's just the way I am. And then the other part of it too is that, there's so much content out there right now that people are inundated, right? So you really want to go with the people and the publications that you trust. And I know Success Magazine and other magazines I've worked at before too have great reputations. So I've been brought on often. I was recruited and sought out for this particular position to keep that storytelling acumen alive and that
Mm.
integrity. So I'm proud of that in my whole career, in my professional life, that people see that in me. And I hope that comes across in the pages and even in, us talking as well. So,
It absolutely does. It
mm.
absolutely does. So you've written for like 150 different publications. Would you say that this is the biggest PR mistake that founders make when they're trying to get that visibility? Is it that they don't have integrity or they kill their credibility somehow?
Oh, you mean when they're trying to get credibility out there in the world for their own business or for
Correct.
their
If
their
they're looking
mission?
to try and do
Yeah.
that, like what's the biggest mistake that damages their credibility?
I agree. I think that what can happen is because there's so much competition now, right? There's so many people out there in the different kind of markets or in the industries now, right? It's more info. There's so many more people, and everyone's doing it themselves, and they can be as solopreneurs and just use all this, AI and that. I think once somebody makes kind of like an impression on a consumer or a reader or any kind of client that doesn't rub them the right way. And because they're being ingenuine or they're not being authentic, I think that now, because there's so many people out there doing so many of the similar things, people will just move on very quickly, right? They will lose that kind of faith in you. And I think I've seen that a lot in business owners because they go too fast. Their pace is too, like mistakes are made or impressions are made that may not be favorable. And people will be like, well, I don't need to stay here to see what you're going
Mm.
to do to fix your own issues or your own problems. I'm going to just move on to the next one. So, yeah, to answer your question, I do think that, owners or business owners, if they make a mistake, I think that their true followers or fans will stay there. But I do think that consumers have so many more choices now. And as owners, we have to be more like careful. We have to be more cognizant of what's going on in the world. And again, that's where that authenticity comes in because you have to know your consumer. You have to know they have so many other choices. And if you make a mistake or if you're going too fast and they're not keeping up and you just kind of run along without them, they're gonna choose someone else. So I think that's kind of where we have to keep in the psyche of the consumer, as a business owner, as a marketer, as a personal brand, even as individuals. And you have to understand who you're going after. So yeah, I think people can make mistakes and then it could cost them dearly.
That's massive. Yeah, there's almost an arrogance to it, assuming that they've got nowhere else to go, that you're the only source of
Exactly.
truth.
That's right. That's right. Especially with everyone now online. And again, the pandemic brought forth so many entrepreneurs, right? And so many people being content creators, and everybody can do it now, right? Anybody can. My 16-year-old can, write a blog, write a book, whatever. So I think that if, in order to have longevity in business, I think that you have to be authentic and have that integrity about you because the ones that really understand you and you can really resonate with that your clients, your consumers, they're going to stick around for the long haul. If you like I said, if you make a mistake there or if you kind of slip up, they have so many more options, and then you're gonna risk losing someone for sure along the way.
So you're founder of RedLily, where you've
Hmm.
shared thousands
Hmm.
of real human stories, like along the way. Like you really are doing what you say you do. Like you're doing it. What's the most surprising lesson you've learned then from people's pain?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll tell you a little bit of backstory on starting redlilylife.com actually. So when I had my heart attack, I wrote a book about it because I really wanted to write about my experience. And it was very therapeutic for me to write about it because I was flabbergasted that something would happen to me with my heart because I felt like I was, healthy and I was fit and I was young and I just didn't understand it. So I wanted to share my story. So when I shared my own story in my book, I realized that so many people were coming out of the woodwork and reading it and coming to me and saying, Kerrie, I'm so in awe that you would share your story because on paper or on TV or whatever, I was doing a lot of TV work back then. People would say, it looks like you have it all together. It looks like you have the perfect life. It looks like you have it all under control. It looks like you balance it all as a mom, as a professional, as a media personality. By you sharing your story authentically, it really showed the human element of you and that you're really I'm a woman and I'm a survivor as well of so many different things and I'm a mom. And so when I did that, it changed my thought. I was going to write another book, like a kind of a secondary one about my heart experience. And I decided to start redlilylife.com, which is a storytelling platform. It is geared towards women. However, I have had many men write for it as well. They've gravitated towards it. But the reason I did that was because I have so many people in my own circles, like even just on the friend level, like my friends, my social circles, that are like, well, I want to share my story, Kerrie, but I don't have the platforms that you do. I don't know people in media. How would I ever get my story out there when I'm like an average person? Like I don't work in media. So it made me think and this is several years ago that I did this. I started this platform to share people's real stories and didn't matter whether it was, something about their health or something about a job transition or something about, emigrating to a new country, or whatever it was about. I wanted them to share it authentically in their own voice. So it's really like a blog, a publishing platform that's like a blog format that you contribute. And I only like very lightly edit, really, really just to make sure that there's no spelling mistakes. And other than that, it's in everybody's personal voice. And since that, yeah, I've had almost 2,000 stories now on there from around the world. And it really is just because people want a place that is safe and like no judgment. And they don't have to impress anyone other than getting it off their heart and off their chest and into my blog. And I think that's the important thing because I feel like there's definitely, with again, social media and everybody online, there's not very many authentic places to share your story if you're not really on social media. And so that's why people were gravitating towards it. So that's why I started it. And I really feel like it's a safe place for people to share. And I've had, gosh, you ask about what lessons I've learned. I mean, there was one woman that came back and did a three-part series on redlilylife.com about her breast cancer survivor story. And it just made me feel so happy to be able to give her this platform, this place to write her story. And she wasn't even a writer. She just really kind of, it all flowed out of her. And I helped her put it up there. And I actually work on all the stories myself too. That's my personal touch to giving back for everyone who wants to contribute. And she ended up going on to write a book, a self-published book, which was so not what she had planned. But she just felt like it was just so naturally flowing out of her. And I helped her along the way that she thought, I really want to help other people. So the platform really, and what I've learned out of kind of sharing people's trauma stories or trials and tribulation stories is that we are all human. Right? It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what sex you are, what country you live, what you've been through, what even age you are. We all go through things. And at the end of the day, if you share your story, this is my whole mantra behind it. If you share your story, you are not only going to start to heal yourself by sharing it and accepting it and overcoming and then living and healing, you're also going to help others. And that's like, it's like twofold. Like, why would you not want to share your story? So that was kind of what I've learned the most out of it. I'm definitely now like in the midst of really building up that platform as well. I've got so many more people that have submitted amazing stories. The one caveat is, though, that anybody who submits a story has to have a positive message at the end because a lot of the stories can be very trying, right? There's things that we've gone through, there are struggles. I didn't want the platform to be all humdrum and very sad because some of them are very life struggles and people have gone through some pretty serious things. But I really wanted a positive message at the end so that people could be inspired. And like my son, my 21-year-old son has written something on there as well. Like I've had lots of different people who have wanted to contribute, and I'm just happy and very grateful to be the person to be able to give the voice to some of the voiceless people out there that don't know where to go to share their story or to just get it off their chest. So that's what my platform does, redlilylife.com. And I welcome anyone to share their story on there. And it's also free.
You're such a blessing, Kerrie. Like, you're such a blessing. Like you're abundant. I can feel your abundant energy, and I can feel that you're almost like a catalyst for other people. The way that you said it, like people's pain is an opportunity for them to help others, and that's what you've created here. What what I'm thinking is, in terms of self-care, how do you define self-care? Because I talk to a lot of people about this, and something they struggle with is how do I actually give self-care to myself? I can give it to other people. I can
Yeah.
give, give all, and maybe it goes back to the people pleasing part, but what is self-care to you and how do you define it?
Yeah. Well, self-care in the traditional sense, right? People would think, "Oh, I'm just gonna, go for a walk or just go and treat myself at the nail salon or something." And that can definitely be self-care in one aspect. 100% it can. Take some time for yourself. But for me, self-care is also kind of sitting with myself and digesting the day. I like to give a bit of advice, and the tip that I always like to tell people is a lot of people at the beginning of the day, they'll write to-do lists, right? You'll write a to-do list during the day or, cross off what you've done during the day. A lot of people doing this in business. A lot of people do it at home too, right? Grocery shopping, take the dog for a walk, da 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 da. Well, what I like to do, and I changed it up a little bit, I like to do my what I did list at the end of the day.
Oh,
So this is my big tip, and this is something I like to share. At the end of the day, whether it's right before you go to bed, put a notepad or something beside and a pen right beside your bed, and right before you go to bed, write down what you did accomplish during the day. right?
Mm.
Look at it that way. So instead of looking at a to-do list in the beginning where you may not get through all the 10 items that you've put down, and then it might impact you emotionally, like, oh shoot, I didn't get to that. Then the stress comes on, then all the anxiety. Look at what you did actually accomplish. So that's one thing I do for self-care is I leave it till the end of the day. I look at all these different things I've done. And often or not, I'll actually put down on my list that I did more than I thought I ever would do anyway. So I like to do personal check-ins as well throughout the day. That's another thing. And I have that in my book. I have personal check-ins, reminders to just sit with yourself for even literally 1 minute, even 1 to 5 minutes, and just in between your day-to-day rush, whether you're in an office, whether you're at home, whether you're picking up the kids, it doesn't really matter what you do in your life and in your day. Take a minute to just digest for a second and just think about, your own kind of, where your mindset is right in that moment. If you need to take a break, to have a glass of water, to, digest, to say a prayer, whatever you're into, just take a moment for yourself. So these check-ins throughout the day are really important. Maybe it's even to remind yourself to eat, to
Mhm.
slow down or to do something like that. But these are important. These are things that are going to get you through the day. And then also, by the way, like at the end of the week or at the weekend, you're going to look back and go, at least I had some time for me and self-care throughout the day. So those are things I do throughout the day when I can, in between meetings. I'll say I'm going to be back in a minute. I gotta take a break for a minute. I will do those. That means self-care to me too, for sure.
Speaking about your book, can you dive into it a little bit? Like, I know that it's so
Yeah.
important for women to hear this. Like I know that the subtitle is a heartfelt guide for women who do too much.
hmm Yeah, I mean, I do need to update my book, but this book in particular right now is really it's made an impression on a lot of people, which I'm very
So-
proud about.
Sorry,
And I think,
Kerrie. I need to
yep.
stop you. I've got a little friend just come in. Hey,
Hi.
his New Year's this is Levi,
Hi, how are you?
and this is Rome. His New Year's resolution was actually to talk to someone really, really successful. Oh, here he is.
Hey guys, how are you?
Good. Good.
This is
Yeah.
Kerry. She's editor-in-chief of Success Magazine. So you've ticked off your New Year's resolution here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Where do you guys live? Where are you? Where do you live?
Where are we?
Uh, in Singapore?
Singapore.
Singapore. Wow, that's amazing. I've never been to Singapore. It's on my bucket list.
Oh,
One day
it's
I'll
the
make it
best
over there.
place, right? It's so good.
Yeah, and I mean, I came up with that subtitle because I was there. I mean, I am like I said, I'm a professional, journalist and I've had a media career for a long time, but I'm a mom, I'm, a friend, I'm a sister, I'm a daughter, and we all try to put too much pressure on ourselves and women in particular. And I know that again, this can apply to men, absolutely, but of course, I'm a woman, so I speak from that perspective. And to all of your listeners out there who are female, they know what I'm talking about. We are, the matriarchy, and whether you have children or not, it doesn't matter. We're that female core to society, and we put so much pressure on ourselves to be perfect, to do everything for everybody else right before ourselves. And that's what led to, me writing that book because I had my heart attack, which ended up being obviously a physical electrical issue. But my cardiologist at the time also said the stress that I was putting on myself emotionally, mentally, psychologically at the time was also aiding in my body needing that wake up call. So I have really come to terms with recognizing that now in myself. So yeah, the book is really about my heart and myself, but also thinking about it from also an emotional perspective and learning to love yourself and learning to slow down. I have 10 steps in there to slow down and recognize why you need to slow down at any age. And I just think it's so important, especially for women, because we do try to do it all. And that's one thing. I'm guilty of it as well. And that's the other thing I get asked a lot. Like, I wrote that book years ago, but am I still following, what I wrote in there? And I tell you, I have to remind myself still of all these different things, right? It doesn't go away. It's in our DNA as females. and as women to give and to nurture and to, be that kind of mama bear out there, right? I even do it in the workplace. I'm the mama bear. I look after everyone, but you have to look after yourself. And I think that's what's so, so important. So, yeah, the book is a personal reflection of what I went through at the time of my heart attack, but it's also a really good guidebook for women out there who really feel like they're stuck because they're just running that hamster wheel, like you said, and, having to think and remind themselves that their body is their temple. And if you are not healthy, you're certainly not going to be happy. And if you're not happy, then those around you won't be either. So I think that's something to take away from the book. But yeah, it means a lot to me for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Everyone should get out and get this book. I wholeheartedly recommend it. Just tackling that guilt, just all the bits that you said, like the learn how to and the 10 signs that you need to slow down, the brain break exercises. Like I really believe in this. So please go and take action. If this sounds like you, get out and get Kerrie's book. This is a sign. I'm telling you, this is a sign. Go and get the book and take
This
that
is it.
step. That's it.
And it's interesting because when I look back, right, like I mean, I'm the former editor-in-chief of a big fitness magazine called Oxygen back in the day, and my journalism career started in the health and fitness industry. I was the journalist, interviewing, the likes of, like a lot of elite athletes and Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, like all these people, but also in the fitness industry where around me, I was surrounded by people who were fit and healthy and ate well and all this. That's the world I kind of grew up in. And yet I still had a heart attack. And it really knocked me off my feet because it made me think, wow, like this really can happen to anyone, right? And so I think that that's why it's so important also to take a step back and to kind of take a moment to slow down or think about your self-care because it really can happen, or not just heart, but other issues can happen at any age or any life stage. And I think it's important. So that reminder is always going to be there for me. And I want to be that reminder for other people because if we had podcasts back then, which we didn't, if we had podcasts back then, or if I was really into listening to motivational speakers back then, maybe there would have been someone that would have told me to try not to do it all at one time, because maybe it would have changed my life back then. But I want to now be that voice for women in particular so that they can at least hear my story and hopefully I'll inspire them to take a moment for themselves every once in a while. I know it's extremely hard to do, and I get it. I hear you, but it definitely really is important to do, to listen to your body for sure.
Thank you, Kerrie. I mean, sharing that and just explicitly making that point, I think that is it. You're going to change thousands of lives just from this conversation alone.
I hope so.
That is going to do that. So let's move into a bit of a quick fire round. Let's play this quick fire round and just see how you answer these questions. So, coffee or silence, and why?
Oh gosh. If I have to choose one, it'll have to be coffee. It used to be tea. It used to be tea, but no, coffee for sure. I'd have to say coffee.
That's your go-to. Why?
Mhm. Oh my goodness. Right now it's just a habit. I'm on to decaf now because I kind of watch my heart. But I think it's a habit. I think it's part of kind
Mm.
of the daily grind, right, of working. But silence is another thing that I love as well. I live in a nice home that I have on my own now, and I love the silence of the peace of it. So it's a hard one to answer, but coffee just keeps me going during the day. Maybe it's a mental thing, but I'm on
Mm.
decaf now. So. Mhm.
It's a signal. Yeah, yeah. It's something that you
Yeah.
build in. Okay. What productivity hack did you used to swear by that you now avoid?
Productivity hack. Oh, I think that I avoid now. I think it's literally just that I stay up till 1, 2, 3 in the morning to get stuff done for the next day. I think it's not even a hack. It was more just putting too much work on my plate. And then the next day, I could have done it in the morning kind of thing. I think I'm a night owl by trade, so I kind of just always was up working, but now I try to get to bed a lot earlier. So I think that is probably my productivity. It's helped me my sleep and getting more sleep. Because before I was hacking it away and it was not doing me very well at all. So I would say getting more sleep, getting some rest and being with myself at evening and praying and doing my nightly check-in, that's really helped me now that I wasn't doing before.
What's the first thing you think about when you wake up?
Mm. I would say it's my boys. I would say, okay, where are my boys? They're 16 and 21 now, right? So obviously they're older, but I think, okay, this one's okay and that one's there. Okay, we're good. And then I get up and I do my thing. They're my life now. Like it's my boys and my health. That's my two priorities. And they're the first thing I think about to make sure they're safe. I always say safe, happy, and healthy, and then I can move on a lot about my day.
What's the one habit that keeps you grounded?
Mm. I think talking to my best friends, talking to my inner circle, talking to my dad, who's 80 years old now, that keeps me grounded because I'll tell you why. A lot of my friends, close friends from back in the day and over the years or in my circles, and even some ones that are newer friends in my life now, they don't care about what I do for a living. They really don't. They really don't. They might think it's cool, but they don't really ask about it. They don't care. They just want to know how I am. And they want to talk about things that are like our kids and stuff, or where we're going to go on our next vacation together, or a girls' trip, or whatever. Those are the ones that keep me grounded, especially in the career that I've taken, being in the public eye, being, in kind of the limelight, if you will. My friends and family are definitely the ones that keep me grounded for sure.
Kerrie, thank you so much for this conversation. The words that keep standing out to me from everything that you said are things like authenticity, integrity, stopping to smell the roses. It's such an important and valuable conversation. Like, I can't thank you enough for the work that you've done today, for coming on and for sharing with such depth, such insight, such truth. Like, there's a truth in here. Like, I feel it, the energy. Like, I feel like I'm connected. And I know we are over virtual, but it literally feels like we are having that cup of decaf coffee together and sharing
Yeah.
this moment, and that the audience is with us. And I can feel that this message that you've shared today is going to
Mhm.
inspire change. What are you working on now, just before we close, that's cool, that's coming up, that you want to share, that's out there, that things that you're doing, because I know that you're doing so much.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of passion projects on the side. A lot of it has to do with empowering women, women all women, all life stages and ages across the globe. I have a new adventure that I'm working on with a partner out of Australia. It's called the Global Lioness Initiative, and it is going to be,
Lioness.
women lioness.
Oh,
Yes, and
the lion is right
yeah,
here.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. And
Okay.
it means a lot to me because the lioness is representative of strength and representative of perseverance and resilience. And all women, again, no matter who you are, all women have this innate in them. And I want to bring women together globally. So we're launching an actual retreat that's going to be in India in the fall. Very excited about this. And, you can go and if you follow me in that, you'll see more information. But I'm really excited because this is going to bring women together not only to do a deep dive on leadership and how we're dealing with the trials and tribulations of our daily lives, but we're going to be able to dive into culture and give back to women in, the sustainable luxury textiles industry and really experience the beauty and the colors of different cultures. And that I think is lacking. There's many, many, many retreats out there. There's many different groups or communities you can join. But what I'm building is actually something more authentic, with real connections that we could have across the miles. Because that's one other thing too, is that there's a lot of women out there who would love to go traveling, but they don't really have the group to do it with. And so there's an element here of adventure and education that I'm bringing to the forefront with my partner, and I'm really excited about it. Absolutely. And so, yeah. And then other than that, I have a lot of different speaking things that I'm always on the go with. I have a new book kind of in the works as well. So, yeah, lots of things on the go. And I like to say that I'm still going, but also more at my own pace now. So.
Where should
Mhm.
people go to follow you, Kerrie?
Yeah, I think the best way to follow me and get in touch is my social media at Kerrie Lee Brown. My website is kerrieleebrown.com. Very simple, very easy. If anybody wants to email me, it's Kerrie at kerrieleebrown.com. Very simple, but all my information is on my website. I think that's probably the best way right now. But yeah, I really appreciate this discussion. And, I could talk with you forever, Tim, about this kind of stuff because we could dive even deeper on some things. But just one kind of last word of advice or at least maybe an inspiration is, don't worry about what other people are doing out there. Don't judge yourself by what other people's successes are. I think that it's really important to just go at the pace in which, your life has been laid out for you by God, by the universe, by spirits, whatever you believe in. But just know that it's all going to work out. And I really want to tell, especially the women that you listen to you, but the men as well, that we all go through things, no matter what status, how much money we have in the bank. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you've found your life partner. It doesn't matter. It just matters that you are true to yourself, because those who are around you and who really are the ones you want to be around and resonate with you, they're going to find you. They're going to be around you, and you're going to find your tribe.
Such a beautiful way to end this conversation. We should definitely do this again in the future.
Absolutely. I'd love to. I would definitely do this again for sure.
Thank you from the bottom of my heart, Kerrie. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Tim. I appreciate it too.